Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, So 35 People Walk into a Pub. Sadly, this isn't a setup for a joke. So this happened a couple of years back in a pub I was working at. I worked the bar at this pub, which was pretty popular especially on sunny days as we had a lot of outdoor seating and a pretty huge beer garden. Now the story takes place one exceptionally hot summer Sunday. For those of you whom have the joy of not being all that familiar with our tea and crumpets society, I'll enlighten you as to why this is a pain for working in a pub. Firstly, the moment the sun blesses our sodden grey land with its presence, we British come out of our thatched caves to bask in its glow like the lizard people our royal family is. This subsequently also means everyone had the exact same thought of, let's go have a pint at the pub and sit in the sun. Yay for bartending. The other noteworthy point here is that on Sunday, a roast is had. Beef, lamb, chicken or pork with roasted potatoes, veggies, gravy and Yorkshire puddings. All of which is wonderful unless you have to spend 2 hours cooking it. With that out of the way, this particular Sunday we were full, and I mean full. Bar 4 or 5 people deep, the 100+ tables all double booked for turnover, and I found myself without a moment's respite between pouring drinks and telling people we were fully booked. During this manic rush, I spot a bit of a commotion outside and see a group of roughly 30 to 35 people, including screaming kids, walking through the courtyard ignoring everyone and into the beer garden. Once my colleague and I had thinned down the numbers at the bar substantially, I told him I was going to walk past to see what the huge group was doing. Anyone that's worked with real-life people of course know that people suck, hence why I just wanted to walk past and avoid interaction. Also, it's a pet peeve of mine when people just sit themselves down ignoring all the staff and expecting us to accommodate them without even the courtesy of mentioning to someone that they're here. So I take a step past the threshold of the bar, always dangerous and that day a choice I regretted, and walk through the beer garden collecting empty glasses as I go. As I near the area the group has settled in, as far away from the building as possible I might add, I avoid eye contact at all costs. You're not going to come say hi, then I can't see you. Walking past the group I am spotted by a very angry woman, the Alpha Karen if you will. Snapping her fingers at me to try and get my attention, as I tried to get away. She stormed up to me and stared me dead in the face. Excuse me, we've been waiting here for the last 15 minutes and no one has come to give us menus, what the hell are you all doing? I'll admit I was momentarily in shock, as the group had to walk through the courtyard and must have seen the crowds of people and stressed waiters everywhere. I'm sorry madam, but I had no idea you were here. Did you speak with anyone to let us know? Then what I saw was a rage build just below her plasticized skin. Yes, I spoke with the redhead. No one that worked there was a redhead. Well anyway, I want some menus, we're starving. I looked past her and asked how many they were. We're 36 people, that's not a problem is it? She said without so much as a hint of understanding why this was ridiculous. Well yes, actually, that's quite a lot for a walk-in, and as you probably saw on your way in we're extremely busy. I'm afraid we have no tables available and we don't serve food in the beer garden. You'll have to try your luck at getting a table in the courtyard, but I can't imagine you'll be able to find enough seating for the 36 of you, and I simply can't hold tables for you, turning other guests away. The reality is that I could but simply didn't want to. She stared at me for a moment then said, you don't serve food in the beer garden, or you won't serve me food in the beer garden? No madam, the establishment does not serve food in the beer garden. Ugh, fine, look, can we just have chips then? For the kids? They're starving. I thought about it for a moment, deciding if I was really willing to put up with this or if I should just say no and send them on their way. Against my better judgment I said okay, but they would have to sit in the courtyard once the tables were available, and asked roughly how many portions of chips they would be wanting. She replied 6, and I said that's probably fine, but she'll have to go inside to order. This did not sit well with her and she started to get very cross. On my way back in I swung by the kitchen to let them know what's up and to expect 6 chip orders but not to rush them because the woman was an enormous pain. I get back to the bar and it's busy again, 3 to 4 people deep, so I immediately jump in and start pouring pints. A few minutes later I hear, "Oh, for God's sake, this is ridiculous," and immediately know who it is. This tiny angry woman pushes her way through the crowd and snaps her fingers at me to get my attention. I want to order my chips. And hurry it up, the kids are hungry." "Okay, I'll put them on now. 6 portions, correct?" Number 17. Sufficient to say I was bewildered. "Madam, that's not what we discussed. I'll have to see if the kitchen can even do that. We're very busy." "We'll go on then, run along to the kitchen," she barked. As I was about to, I hear, "Actually, can you make it 35? Madam, I'll be honest with you, there's no way you'll get them all at once. It's simply too many for the fryer. It'll have to be in batches and it's going to take a while as there are more pressing orders ahead of you. You will also need to pay up front." "I don't care, bring them one by one if you have to. As soon as one is ready, bring it out." Bingo. I went and spoke to the chef explaining what was going on. "Rude woman, many chips, one by one." He laughed and we decided to do exactly as she asked. "Bring on the MC." So despite being very busy, as soon as one portion of chips was ready I took it out. "One portion, only one." She was not pleased. "What the hell is this?" I said, 35 portions, not one. "As I explained to you inside, madam, 35 portions is simply far too many for our fryers to handle and there is a substantial number of other orders ahead of you." I had to try very hard to hide my poo-eating grin at this point. But what the hell do you expect me to do with this? Perhaps you could have 1 chip each per portion?" And I swiftly turned and walked away. Following this, every 10 to 15 minutes I would take out one more and only one more portion of chips to the group. By about portion 12 they had been there several hours and were fed up. They tried to complain to the manager, but she was so rude and disrespectful to myself, my manager and other staff members that he dismissed her, stating that I had explained clearly to her that we were very busy and she herself and told me to bring them out 1 portion at a time if need be. They left very angry and we had 23 portions of chips paid for that staff got to enjoy later on. Next one is titled, "Water." I'll add it 1 gallon at a time. I operate a concrete mixer. I often come across job sites that need more water than allows on their invoice ticket to make it easier to pour the concrete. Problem is, the more water often means the more unstable the concrete will be unless it was mixed specifically to be wet. Unstable equals cracking. There is a certain inspector our company deals with every day on a site. A very picky new inspector that doesn't have that laid-back attitude or knowledge of what he's doing that comes with experience. He's by the book all the way. Well, Mr. Picky decided he wanted us to make sure the concrete was perfect before pouring. It must be exactly what they wanted, not wetter, not drier, and he would check to see each time. Most 10-yard loads, adding 5 gallons won't do much, but adding 10 is normal. So my 2 co-workers and I decided each time we went we would add 1 gallon, 5 secs per gallon, at a time to the mix, 65 gallons water tank. Pour out a bucket of concrete for him to test and clean up. Every gallon was another bucket, 35 pounds, to haul and mess to clean up. Normally an average load here would be done pouring after 20 minutes. We have now been testing just my load for 50 minutes before pouring and he has 2 more tucks to go that we brought dry. Hourly truck rate $2 per minute after 40 minutes. By the end of the day he had refused to be assigned to this job site. I heard the customer asked him to leave since he was costing them money. We haven't seen him for the past 2 weeks and the job site has been running smoothly. Edit, it didn't cost the customer anything as the inspector signed the tickets. To clarify, the inspector gets paid to be there, and the customer refused to pay for the overtime. The inspector signed the tickets so his office was liable on the overtime. Next one is titled, "Manager told me to choose between the military or my job, so I quit." I was active duty in the army for 3 years, and following that shifted into the reserves for another 3 years. I was moving from one state back to my home state during the transition from active duty and needed a truck scale to weigh the moving truck before returning it so I could be reimbursed for the move. The Army pays you to move between duty stations and when you ETS from active service. While looking for a truck scale, I found a place that I thought would have one, but it turned out to be a company that installed and certified scales. The branch manager and I hit it off as I was explaining what I was there for, and he said he would like to interview me for a job. Sweet. I needed something anyway to support my family, and the job sounded pretty exciting. Within a couple of weeks they had hired me and I got started learning the ropes and getting the necessary certifications. Things went well and I became one of the go-to guys when they needed some of the more intricate work done. I had several job sites I would go to on a regular basis where the customers loved me. You might be surprised at all the places where scales are used to measure product and sell things, from labs with tiny scales weighing to the hundredths of a gram to big truck scales installed at job sites to weigh debris from various construction projects. The job was tough physically at times, but I actually really enjoyed traveling all over the state and getting to meet some really awesome people. Fast forward a little over a year after I started at the company. Things had been going really good and I was going to school in the evenings to get some education and further my career. Now, sometimes the job required all hands on deck on the weekends for some of the bigger jobs, like truck scale installs at customer sites for one reason or another. Normally this was fine, and there had never been any issue for me working the weekend, unless I had drill with my reserve unit, but the company was fine with that as long as I got the needed paperwork from my unit listing the dates I would be drilling. This all changed at the end of May, after I had been at the company for over a year. I had requested time off over the Memorial Day holiday weekend to take my wife to Myrtle Beach as a late honeymoon. The weekend before that I had drill and so was also unavailable for work. The Thursday before these back-to-back weekends, which had been understood to be weekends, I would not be available. My boss called me after I had left the shop for my jobs for the day. Boss, hey, I need you to tell me which of the next 2 weekends you will be able to work. We have 2 big jobs and we need everyone available. Me, you know I have drill this weekend and you already approved me being off next weekend to go out of town. Boss, well, I need you at one of these jobs. So which one will you be in for? Me, I can't this weekend because drill is mandatory, and if I cancel the hotel that I have booked next weekend it is gonna cost me money in cancellation fees. Boss, look, we work in customer service. If you can't be available to work then maybe you should look for a job not in customer service. Call me back or let me know when you get back to the office which weekend you will be working. This call was at like 8:30 in the morning, and I still had several jobs to do for the day. I called my wife and told her what happened and that I might just quit. She said I should do what I thought was best and maybe it would be good to be able to focus on school more and try to find something where they were not going to treat me like that. I spent the rest of the day contemplating what to do, and by the time I got back to the office that afternoon I had made up my mind. I walked into the boss's office. Me, I thought about what you said this morning and you were absolutely right. I quit. Boss, whoa, don't be hasty. I can work it out so you are good the next couple weekends and don't have to worry about the jobs. Me, I already made up my mind. You tried to hold the fact that I have drill over my head and make me work the weekend you knew I was taking my wife out of town. Boss, well, go home tonight and think about it and let know in the morning after you have had some time to think. I went home and gathered all my uniforms up, washed them and removed my name tags. I think he thought I was going to come back the next day and change my mind, because he had me scheduled for several jobs solo that day when I arrived at the office. He was sorely mistaken. I turned in my uniforms, collected my tools and left after he and the branch manager both begged me to stay, saying they didn't have anyone to take my jobs and I would be hurting the company if I didn't stay. I focused on school the next few months, and wound up getting a job in IT where I was making a lot more money with a lot less stress on my mind and body. Edit, I wanted to clarify that this has been a few years ago and I was not informed at the time about how the laws worked in regards to employers and military service, so I didn't know just how bad the way they were acting was. Since then I have learned a lot and would probably have handled things much differently if I knew then what I know now. It all worked out in the end, and I know of at least one customer that stopped suing them after I left because the guy they had coming out to the site to replace me was not up to the standard they expected when I was out there. Next one is titled, Contact You for Any Queries, at any time you say. Happy to oblige. Let me put it at the front that I'm not sharing this story as a triumph. I just wanted to use a potential clickbaiting title. I did not partake in this, and this isn't one of those good for you, malicious compliances. It's a situation where the malicious compliance was truly malicious in every sense of the word. This story happened a few years ago when I was in my second year at uni. So during the second semester of my second year at uni, I had an economics project management introductory course. There were about 120 people taking the course, and the coordinator and lecturer of this course was this professor who had done her undergrad in architecture before going off to do her master's and PhD in civil engineering project management or something of the sort. Now, because of her architecture, artsy background, she was a really laid-back lecturer. You know, the type who would give her students her number and kept her office door open at all times so students would feel invited should they need to consult. Halfway through the semester, the university shut down for a few weeks due to a couple of campus-wide incidents, but we were still receiving a bunch of schoolwork. Among this schoolwork were 2 projects from this lecturer, one of which was a really demanding project. Naturally, the class requested an extension for the more demanding project through the class representative, and the lecturer only gave a few extra days. The class was not happy with this, as it started to look like her friendliness was just a facade when in fact she didn't care about her students. As the due date got closer, more and more people were emailing her asking for extensions and the like. She would not hear it and refused to budge. She then sent out an email to the entire class saying that it was our responsibility to properly manage our time and schoolwork, but should we have any queries, we should feel free to contact her at any time. Cue malicious compliance. At this point, we knew there would be no extensions, but 2 nights before the project was due, the class decided to query about an extension at around 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night. However, instead of doing so through the class rep, about 70% of the class agreed to do so through texts and phone calls. After all, she'd given the class her number and had given us leave to query at any time. After a few dozen texts and phone calls, she switched off her phone, and the texts and calls stopped going through. She hasn't given her students her phone number since. Edit, let me just say that neither me nor my group of friends took part in spamming the lecturer. This was a class filled with a bunch of immature and entitled 18, 19, 20-year-olds. I'm not justifying the class's action with the immaturity, and in sharing this story I'm not gloating about taking advantage of a good lecturer's attempt to give her students the means to succeed. In this I'll admit that my title does suggest gloating. Most stories on this sub are positive malicious compliance, and this is simply an example in which the malicious compliers were truly being malicious in every sense of the word. Edit 2. The lecturer in question was indeed a very good lecturer, and the class was really being entitled. She is by far the most helpful person at the university's civil engineering department, as well as in the faculty of engineering and the built environment. She the deputy dean of the faculty, and she's such a treasure that she personally, regularly goes out of her way to help international students write exams in their country of origin should they be unable to be on campus for any reason. With regards to the incident, she never even brought it up and marked the class fairly regardless. Also, it's only to her younger students that she no longer gives her number. She still does it with her final year and postgrad students. Edit 3. My use of architecture, artsy background, is not to suggest that architecture is not a demanding field of study. I know very well that it is. I use it because that was the lecturer's own words that she used to distinguish herself from her more rigid co-workers with engineering and science backgrounds. Next one is titled, Everhad AM/C event with TSA. The airport. It happened to me around 2014. I was going through the magnetic detector thingy and it beeped. So they pulled me aside and wanted to do the wand. So what happens? The button on my jeans was metal and that set off the wand, but that shouldn't have set off the big machine, right? So the guy told me to undo the button. My belt was in the scanner machine, so I did it. Then he told me to loosen the zipper. I asked, "Are you sure?" So he says in a nasty voice, "You want to catch your flight or not?" So, okay. Down goes my pants and they stop at my knees. The airport is busy. There are women walking by looking at me with shocked expressions. I just smile. There are kids looking, all ages. And I just stand there with my arms out like he said. He looks, moves the wand over my crotch. No beep, and then tells me to go on. I pull up my pants and zip up. Everyone that saw me in the airport probably thought I was a perv or something. Looking back at that, I wish I was wearing a thong. Last one is titled, "Grandpa Doesn't Want Me Doing the Supermarket Because I Order Snacks." Okay. I, 23 female, live with my grandparents. My grandpa, 78, has always had a problem with me being overweight. On 2018 to 2019 I lost around 40 pounds, but of course during quarantine I gained a few pounds back. I also study medicine, so I sit around a lot. Due to the pandemic we've been very careful, and we started doing our supermarket through a delivery app which works really good. During 2020 I did the orders on the app because I understood it better and was faster. Now, this app sends you a notification when the supermarket guy doesn't find something and you can choose replacements, but if you miss it, the shopper chooses the replacement for you. Now around the end of last year my grandpa got super picky with my weight and demanded that he did the supermarket orders so that I could no longer order snacks. They were small, don't imagine $100 worth of stuff lol, it was normally just some cookies. Very well, I taught him and all, but I knew he wouldn't be as efficient as me. I worked previously as a shopper for the app and knew very well how it worked. Fast forward to today, and every order comes out worse than the last one. Wrong products because he ordered the wrong ones or because he didn't see the replacement notification. And now, he is asking me to do them like we used to lol. Note, I am not very overweight, just slightly, so his worry is very exaggerated. Thanks for listening.